Welcome to SunnySpeaks, here again with another review for you, and you. And today, I'm here to talk about Hurry Up Tomorrow, directed by Trey Edward Shults, and starring Abel Tesfaye, Jenna Ortega, Keoghan, and that's about it. Abel, played by himself, struggles to cope with new revelations during the first leg of his tour. Using ego, drugs, and alcohol seems to hold back the tears only for a little. After losing his voice during a show, Abel chooses to run away with a woman he sees in the crowd named Anima, played by Jenna Ortega. What at first seems like two kindred spirits becomes a disturbing reflection of truth inside artistry and the artist-consumer relationship. Now, the most important question that everybody has been asking, is this movie better than The Idol? Yes and no. And I will explain later, but first, let's talk about our main actor, Abel Tesfaye, or The Weeknd. As a fan of his music and the recent album Hurry Up Tomorrow, I find myself looking deeper into his work, especially his songwriting. But the one thing that has never won me over is his acting ability. From his brief moment in Uncut Gems to the ridiculously crude and jarring HBO show The Idol, written by Sam Levinson and Abel, I never find him believable, ever. Though sometimes entertaining, I will say. I hoped that in this film it would be easier since he's playing himself, and I can say this is his best acting performance, but I don't think that's saying much. Abel as a character is heartbroken, cruel, lonely, sad, and is an egomaniac. None of that truly being explored in the script through dialogue, but through the visuals. Most of this movie's story is told visually, which makes the film look great. But as a main character, Abel, though having a cool aesthetic, overall, he is pretty empty to me. The best acting moment to me was when he first lost his voice on stage, and the way that he was able to convey the cycle of emotions in that, from being scared to having to play up to the crowd to then just this emptiness inside because he can't even sing the song that everybody around him is singing. The words that he wrote, he can't even express vocally. And I thought that was really well done on his part, because that part is cool to just say, to just read in a script, but that is a lot of work on the actor's part to be able to accomplish each of those moments emotionally, and for us to feel that journey just in that one scene. So even though people are hating on him for the shut the fuck up, like people are hating on him for that, but there are good moments in this movie with his acting that I think is worth acknowledging too. But like I said, mainly because of the script more than him, but I will say there are some things that he does that are very flat. It's a very up and down performance, and I just think Abel Tesfaye is just not the best actor. But I do think he has a great eye for what can be cool. I think there's ups and downs and pros and cons to what The Weeknd or Abel Tesfaye brought to this film. On the acting standpoint, again, it's not that great, but I do think that this movie wouldn't even be the movie it is without The Weeknd, and we'll move further on from there. Keoghan as Lee is cool in this film. Very smart to have a talented actor be an anchor for Abel in this film, but because of the lack of deeper characterization and me personally wanting more moments between these two who are supposed to be best friends and have a long history together, Lee as a character isn't much to speak on for real. I do think that Keoghan gives the role of Lee something that is noticeable and something that I wouldn't want to be gone from this film. I really feel like he tried to make his role more than what it was on the page, but while also not being able to. Also because of his Irish accent that he brings to this role, sometimes it was just hard for me to even know what he was saying, but that's not really an indictment, more just an observation. I think Lee's character was very forgettable, sadly, even though I think that they had a great actor and a really good idea on why Lee is important to this story. And I will speak on what I think this movie is trying to do metaphorically later on in a spoiler section, so stay tuned for that. Jenna Ortega as Anima, hopefully I'm saying that right, is really good. I've been seeing a lot of discourse that Jenna Ortega needs to fire her agent because of all these bad movies that she's in recently, and I don't disagree, but I do think that regardless of what movie she's in, she gives it her all, and in this movie she is easily the acting standout. So many scenes with her and Abel, I feel like she carries them and is able to make the scenes a lot more palatable and even immersive because of what she brings to the role as Anima. Anima is a character who is kind of confusing because we don't know much about her for real. Anima is an independent woman. After seeing how hard her mom struggles, Anima chooses to set off on her own and to create her own path. Somewhere along the way, she went to a Weeknd concert, found herself having a great night with Abel, and doesn't want it to end despite his discomfort. Anima is dangerous, and that's very apparent from her first scene. But other than beauty, it makes sense why Abel is drawn to her. In a moment of crisis, she listens and seems to genuinely care about what Abel is going through and what he has to say. And I do understand how somebody of his stature and of that sort of status could be lost within her gaze and within how she sees him. The chemistry between Abel and Anima is up and down for me. Like I said, I think that Jenna Ortega brings a lot to those scenes that allows you to immerse further, and I think sometimes Abel can really bring you back to reality. At times they seem very connected in how they stare at each other, or moments of dialogue that feel genuine, but sometimes it felt like they were just posing for a music video and not really living within the scene. As two characters escaping into the night together, it just felt like they wanted to be seen sometimes, the way that they carried themselves, which made no sense to me if that was the complete opposite of what they wanted. Especially the roller coaster scene and all that, which again, all that stuff looks cool, it does, but I do think that that's when the movie, at times it borders on being a longer music video than it is a movie. And that's the biggest problem with this film. Despite the great cinematography and great music, because again, I love the album that he put out this year, the movie feels like a heavily extended music video, like I said before. Not because of the reliance on the music, but the lack of story in the script. I have ideas of what this movie is trying to say metaphorically. And again, I am a fan of The Weeknd, but not everyone is. And I do think a movie should be able to stand on its own 2 feet instead of needing homework before. That goes for you too, Marvel and DC. I think movies in general should be able to stand on their own a lot more than I think that they are needing to currently. The lack of story affects all 3 performances in this movie, and having only 3 characters we follow in the film makes it feel even more empty. The dialogue goes from good to bad often, and even though the visuals are great, and I do see how they represent something a lot bigger than just pretty colors, but it still is very hard to immerse in this film because of it not providing much for the audience to attach to. Using the album Hurry Up Tomorrow as an audio backdrop works because of how great the album is, but certain performances The Weeknd has feel kind of corny and makes the songs lose some aura for me. One of the last scenes when Anima is asking Abel to tell the truth and he says that he can't, and she's pouring gasoline on him, about to burn him and herself up, and then he just starts belting out the last song on Hurry Up Tomorrow, titled Hurry Up Tomorrow. That scene is so incredibly corny, and that's a song that actually grew on me over time, but man, I was not. It sucks too, because that's a scene that has so much emotional resonance like imbued into it because of what it's actually saying. Him saying, I can't tell the truth the way you want me to, and then belting out into song. I understand how that's supposed to be powerful, but it's something about the way that The Weeknd performs music in just the song itself and the placement. Everything about that scene does not work for me outside of the actual concept, and that's a problem. But again, I feel like the movie has so many times where it blurs the line of being just a film on its own or an extended music video for these songs in this album. And it sucks because even though I think at times the concepts they come up with make the message of the album a lot better, I do think that at times the movie can make the songs a little bit worse. Now, the number one question, is Hurry Up Tomorrow better than The Idol? Yes, a lot easier to watch, less cringe, less faux commentary on pop stars and destructive lifestyles that, at least for me, feels like Sam Levinson was just trying to get some shit off rather than actually say something important or that's profound or that could help somebody, because I have problems with Euphoria too. Maybe I'll do a video essay on that one day. Abel as well. I think Abel was trying to get some shit off too. He's not safe from that horrible show. He was all over that. But I will say, as a person who watched The Idol from beginning to end, don't judge me. I think that show looked really great. I think it looked better than this movie, and it is more entertaining than Hurry Up Tomorrow. I also liked the musical performances more in The Idol than Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is crazy because The Idol has Lily Rose Depp doing musical performances with obvious auto-tune. I just liked the songs and how they were able to describe her character so well and create insight to who these people are through the music. Something about the music in Hurry Up Tomorrow, while loving the album, there is just a corny factor when you're tied up to a bed and then you just start belting out this song. Like, I don't know, something about that just did not work for me at all. Might have been the worst part of the movie to me, actually. Maybe, I don't know. Overall, I would give Hurry Up Tomorrow a mostly cloudy rating. I wanted so much more from this movie. I wanted it to be a real movie with deeper characterization and arcs to follow, but despite some great actors in this, it lacks so much substance, especially if you are just a movie fan and not connected to the Weeknd's music at all. I enjoyed myself for most of the runtime. Part of that being because of other people around me. I was at a fan event for this movie, and so being around other Weeknd fans singing the songs and being hype over just certain Weeknd Easter eggs was really cool, but I do think that enhanced my experience a lot more than the movie did itself. And speaking on how I said the visuals are really great, I also think that if I was watching this on my TV, I maybe would have turned it off, but because I was seeing it on the biggest screen possible with really great sound in a theater, I was able to immerse a lot further because of the big screen in front of me and the people around me. It felt like a whole thing. It wasn't just the movie itself that was helping me lose where I was at. It was really the environment I was in, and also just like the almost overstimulating experience this movie can have. They actually had a photosensitivity warning right before the movie started because it is a lot of shit going on visually. But again, it's crazy how much is happening visually, but yet it's not actually, it really doesn't have that much substance to it. At least if you aren't a fan of The Weeknd, you're not gonna care about what this is really trying to say, at least my interpretation of it. But this has been my review of Hurry Up Tomorrow. If you have seen the movie, let me know what you think in the comments down below, because perspective is key. And if you haven't seen Hurry Up Tomorrow, let me know if this review makes you want to go see the movie or not. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I'll be back again. And if you have seen the movie, or if you just don't care at all, I will now go into my spoiler section where I talk about at least what I thought the movie was trying to say and do. So if you haven't seen the movie, again, you are warned. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the spoiler section, and this is my interpretation of what I felt like Hurry Up Tomorrow was trying to say in the movie. So if you are a Weeknd fan, then you know that Hurry Up Tomorrow, the album, will be the last Weeknd album that we get before he either changes his name and makes some more music or just keeps on doing films in some way. I believe, and I think it's pretty obvious to many people, that Anima and Lee are not real. These characters exist to show two different sides of Abel. Abel is a very empty character in dealing with extreme loss that is his own fault, at least from what I assume. They never really give you a lot of context to what is exactly going on in his life. But Anima and Lee are pulling him in two different directions. Two of my favorite scenes on both sides. There's a moment when Abel says, I don't want to perform tonight, already at the venue, just sitting there in his dressing room, not wanting to perform at all. Lee comes up to him and says that you are not human. The gifts that you are given, like he has this thing that he keeps on doing where he opens the door and you hear all the cheers and yells for Abel or The Weeknd, and he's like, that's out there for you. And he tells him that he's not human. He's more than that. And because of the gifts that he's given, he is able to remove a lot of the pain that he feels for other people through his music and through his writing. And I thought that was really profound, because that's the thing that actually, that and drugs are the things that allow Abel to push a little bit further and continue down this journey. But it's a journey that doesn't make him happy. And even the reason why he was able to do it is because of his twisted ideology of what the artist-consumer relationship can be, where it's only one-sided, even if it destroys you and even if the lifestyle destroys you. There's a moment where Abel shows Anima one of his songs that he hasn't finished yet. When he does that, she starts to cry. And it's a moment where he's shocked and kind of confused confused and a little scared. And I like this moment a lot because for Anima as a fan, she's piercing the veil into this artist, into the real person he really is through the lyrics she's hearing and how relatable they feel. If you look at it metaphorically, Anima is the real version of himself. She is the one closer to Abel than she is to the Weeknd. And so this song is representative of him opening up that shell and becoming the person he really is instead of the enigma and the star that he's chosen to be for himself in the world. And I found that really fascinating because that also speaks on a dual conversation of the artist-consumer relationship. Something where even in that moment, Abel is just a person trying to show another person a unreleased song that he's working on. Before that person, they're hearing a unreleased song directly from their favorite artist. It changes the dynamic instantly. It changes the power dynamic instantly. And that's something that can be very scary for an artist that just wants to connect with people, especially on a one-on-one basis. I am not the Weeknd. I never even had a career close to that, but I understand what that feels like, to feel like you are overwhelmed by how your music can impact people when you just want to connect as well. So I found that really, really fascinating. If you have seen the movie, then you know the scene where Anima and Lee fight each other to the death. I really liked this scene because it was very dark and violent, and I like that in the end Anima wins the fight. Brutally though. She represents a chaotic good inside of Abel that is screaming and shouting to get out. And though I first judged Abel's performance in that scene, because if you're seeing your best friend, well, he didn't see it. If you're tied up to a bed and then you're just hearing fighting and wrestling and then your kidnapper comes back and your best friend is dead, I would assume you'd be more upset. But if this is all metaphorical, which is what I assume the whole movie is, if it is metaphorical, then he wouldn't be that sad about it because he doesn't even want to truly be the Weeknd anymore. He doesn't want to live this lifestyle that is indulgent in parties and drugs and meaningless sex and faceless crowds. One of my other favorite moments of the entire movie where he's performing and he can't see a face in there. The only face he can see is Anima, which emboldens my interpretation even more so. But he can't see anybody else. And I really like that because again, it's an artist on stage saying, look at me, I want to be seen, I want to be heard. And he can hear all of his words back at him, but he can't see them. And that disconnect is obvious and is easy to lead to self-destruction when you feel not only above, but you feel blind to the people you're trying to connect with. Another cool scene was when Anima, who is basically a Weeknd superfan, has him tied up and is deconstructing his songs and dancing around singing. Jenna Ortega did such a great job being an avatar for so many fans out there in that scene, while also being so cute and creepy, dancing around, and I don't know, just being very odd. It actually had a kind of an Ari Aster sort of vibe to it, that particular scene, the way it was shot, just how it was stuck on her just performing. It was so weird, but I did enjoy it. I did. And like I said, she is the only real standout when it comes to performance, but I do think the script allows her to do the most out of all three actors. But that's my little interpretation of what I think Hurry Up Tomorrow is supposed to be as a film. I think it is absolutely a companion piece to the album Hurry Up Tomorrow. And both of these things, the movie and the album, are a love letter to his fans, saying that he gets it, he understands why they want him to stay, but it doesn't make him happy to be this way anymore, to live this life and to lose the time that he's had. And even though, like I said, The Idol is more entertaining to me, more interesting, I like seeing artists that I care about because they've helped me through their music. I like seeing artists grow and be happier. Somebody like Kid Cudi, who when I see him smile in anything, it makes me happy because I know just a little bit of where he was at just from the music I've heard and what he pulled me out of. And so it's nice to see an artist like The Weeknd or Abel Tesfaye choose himself over the persona and over the enigma he's been for most of my life. I don't know, it's a difficult movie to talk about. I understand why people are hating it, I do, but I don't. Even though I gave it a mostly cloudy rating, I enjoyed the film, and it did give me something because I'm a fan of The Weeknd. And if I wasn't, I think I'd like this a lot less, and that's valid. I don't want to take anybody's opinion away, but there is something deeper here if you want to see it. I think that's most things in life. If you want to see something deeper inside of it, it might be there. But I understand the hate for it. The shut the fuck up, that shit it's not great. it's not a great scene. I do think people are kind of cherry picking what they choose from this movie to show to just increase the Weeknd can't act train, but when you're right, you're right. This has been the video. I'm rambling now. Thank you for watching if you got this far, and I will be back again. Peace.